Good afternoon and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care and Providence Holy Cross Medical Center. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Thomas Polucki.
on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors giving information on quality of life. And our first guest this afternoon, here I go again, is Melanie Maki, who is a palliative care nurse at Henry Mayo Hospital. Welcome. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
I'm happy to be
So what are we going to be talking about today other than palliative care? Or what is palliative care?
What is palliative care? Well, really the goal of palliative care is to improve the quality of life the patient has left. Really, that's the bottom line.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so many times people get it mixed up with hospice.
Yes.
Like there is a spectrum. There's 50 shades of
Right.
of this kind level of care. It's serious. When the palliative team is consulted to come in and help manage, it's because this person needs a little bit extra. Right? So can you tell me the difference between palliative, hospice, and where those lines are blurred and how it all works together?
Absolutely. So our patients have chronic, life-limiting, or terminal illnesses. Palliative care can begin at diagnosis. It is supportive care that can be in conjunction with curative and life-prolonging treatment. It's not necessarily just for end of life. There's pain and symptom management to help improve the quality of life of the patient. They can get their chemotherapy, they can get their radiation treatments, and still have the palliative care team there to support them. It's supportive treatment.
Yeah, and some people graduate, I mean, in a good way. Like they get
absolutely.
better.
They get better. Yes, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And so where it differs from hospice is end of life. Hospice is when a doctor has determined that a patient has less than 6 months to live. That's kind of the determination. You forgo any more curative treatment, and the treatment is just focused on end-of-life symptoms and treatment of those symptoms that come with end of life. That's hospice. So that's where the difference between palliative and hospice is. A lot of times those terms get used interchangeably, so it becomes confusing for patients. So I like to make that distinction so that they know palliative is that support that can be in conjunction with treatment.
So
and it's not just end of life.
Yeah, let's talk about that support for a second. So that isn't just about, giving them really good drugs.
No.
What does that look like? And it's not just limited to the patient either. I mean, it's the whole...
It's for the whole family, for their support system. So palliative care is a support system. It's made up of a team. You have your physician, your nurses, and it's also spiritual. So you have your chaplains, social workers. Some other palliative companies have dietitians as well, so that your nutrition needs are taken care of. But at Henry Mayo, we have social workers, nurses, our medical director, and our chaplains. So it's a holistic approach to patient care. We are able to meet the physical, emotional, and spiritual needs of our patients, help with resources that they might need while they're living with their disease. The patients have been living with with their disease process for quite some time, and it doesn't just affect them, it affects the people in their house, their family.
Sure.
Their families are typically their caregivers, and sometimes they have to take time off of work. So they might need resources, so the social workers can help them look for those resources and find the resources that they can use to help be at home and take care of their loved one so that their loved one can stay in their own home.
Yeah.
And not have to go somewhere where they can receive 24-hour care. If they can manage to do it at home, we try to help them find those resources.
Right.
We're consulted for pain and symptom management if they're suffering from pain and symptoms from not just from their disease process, but sometimes from the treatment itself for their disease process can sometimes be painful and cause symptoms. So we assess them and make sure that they're receiving treatment to help manage those as well. So,
Yeah.
I
So
can
Barb,
I'm sorry,
I just want to ask a question that's relevant to you because you had an extended stay at Henry Mayo a couple years ago. So
it's been 5 years.
yeah, and congratulations, by the way.
That was me for a few days, but prior to that, my husband Russ was in Henry Mayo for 5 weeks,
oh my goodness.
and we used palliative care, and it was incredible. It really was because I didn't have to sit with him all the time.
Yeah.
He had pneumonia and COPD, and he fell, and Dr. Dorio said, no, you need to be in the hospital. You need to have 24/7 care.
Yeah.
And so that's when we used the palliative care. And it was incredible because I didn't have to stay with him,
Right.
Almost 24/7 because he was taken care of there, and he was well taken care of.
Yeah, it takes a
And,
little bit of the fear out of the equation when you know that you're going to have that kind of a support, and to have it right here at Henry Mayo is pretty amazing. So
It was incredible for us because he did not want to go into a board and care. He said, do not put me anywhere. I want to either stay at home or whatever.
Right.
And he was in the hospital for 5 weeks. And like I said, he was so well taken care of. He really was. And I had heard so many people have negative things to say about the hospital. And I think at one point they were going through a rough period of time when they had, I think it was a different manager or whatever you call him. And it was a very good experience for him, and he was well taken care of.
Right. Well, I'm glad he got to come home.
No, he didn't get to come home.
Oh,
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He didn't. He was there, and he passed away there.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And I called in hospice, and that was just for a couple of days. And the doctor told me that he's not going to survive. It was just a matter of time, But he was better off. He really was, because that way he wasn't suffering. He was at peace, And the hospital did a fantastic job. They really did. So I congratulate you and all of the people who work with you, because it's not an easy job.
No.
It is not. I know that.
So we just got a beautiful example of Melanie doing her job. Like immediately the nurse kicked in as soon as you were sharing your story about Russ, Barb. So I got to ask, when this is a tough job, even though you're trained for it, even though, you definitely have the calling, how do you protect yourself? I mean, it's a very emotional experience to deal with this day in and day out. What measures do you take to keep yourself okay?
Well, first of all, I consider it a gift to be able to experience this part of life with my patients and their families.
And you know that you're helping.
Yes.
And that makes you feel good.
Right.
Even though you are maybe upset with what's going on around you, but you feel good inside because you're helping them.
Absolutely.
And helping them like no one else can. And I think that makes a lot of difference,
Yeah.
And
I try to, Someone has asked me before, like, how do I deal with the grief day in and day out? Because I also used to work bedside in ICU. My background is mainly critical care. And I tell them, it's not my loved one that's in the bed. So I'm able to, while it is upsetting, it's not personal to me. So I'm able to, while I feel grief, I'm able to put that grief aside and focus on support.
What you need to
for
do.
what I need to do. Support the people in the room. Support the patient. And I'm able to focus. Now for myself, because there is that compassion and empathy that keeps getting tapped. You have to, take time for self-care for yourself. I spend time with my family, and I appreciate the time that I have with them. I like to spend time near the water.
Nice.
I am a beach girl. I'm a boat girl. If I am by the water,
beach
I am
baby.
happy. I am very happy. I like to read. I like to travel. So that's what I like to do, and spending time with my family. And if there was anything the last few years has taught me, it is to spend as much time with your family as possible, because time is not guaranteed.
Yeah, no.
By family, what do you mean? Your personal
My
family,
personal
your
family,
children?
my husband, my children, my sisters, my nephews, my cousin. We spend as much time together as we possibly can, and we make up reasons to be together. We see each other every week practically. So
That's wonderful.
that's how I
How many
regroup.
children do you have?
I have 3 adult children.
3 adult children.
Yes, and I just celebrated my 28th wedding anniversary last week.
Oh,
Wow,
congratulations.
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
28 happy years.
Yes. Yeah, he's a fantastic man.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And your children, are they married or?
Not yet.
No,
No, not yet. My sons are 28 and 24, and my daughter will be 21 next week.
And did they go to school? Did they or?
My sons are at CSUN and Cal State Long Beach, and my daughter is working in the post-production entertainment industry.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
So you have been a successful set of parents.
I consider myself successful because they enjoy our company. They like to spend time with us.
That is so important.
So that's my measure of success as
Yes.
a parent, is that they enjoy spending time with us.
Yeah, and I have 2 children now. I lost a son
My goodness.
in '85, and I have a son and a daughter now, and they come down and help take care of me, so to speak. I'm off a walker, and I'm using my sticks over there. I had the second bout of cancer, which threw my body into all kinds of a mess. And I got it when I was 75, and I got it when I was 85. And I told the kids, if I get it when I'm 95, I'll beat it again.
You just keep fighting.
Absolutely. Well, I think having a positive attitude makes a lot of difference for you. My father
Definitely.
was a positive man. He always thought ahead. And my mother was the opposite. She was, oh, well, if you have to, go ahead, that kind of thing. And I took after my father. And he had a very successful life, and I've had a very successful life, and I'm happy to be here. Very happy, and I don't intend to leave anytime soon. Yeah, my 88th is coming up in October. So, and I plan to go 98. So
There you go.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
So earlier you just mentioned very briefly that a lot has changed since 2013 when Henry Mayo started the Palliative Care program. Can you talk a little bit about the advancements in the field and specifically at Henry Mayo and what you've seen personally going on in your line of work?
Well, I've seen it utilized more. It is, we focus on having discussions with families about what their goals of care are. And what that means is, what do they want their life to look like?
Yes, that's so important.
Which sounds like a broad question, but they're living with this disease process. So it can be something as simple as, I want to be healthy enough to make it to see my first grandchild born. That might be their goal.
I have 7 great-grandchildren.
Congratulations.
Yes, absolutely.
She-
Yes, yes.
See, beating cancer twice.
There you go.
That's
Well,
what it will
he
get
helped also, believe me.
And so did Henry Mayo. Henry Mayo was amazing. I visited you there, and it was like a hotel suite.
Have you been in our new tower?
Yes, I have.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. So, it's amazing. We're so lucky to have a facility like that right here in town. It's like, I didn't know, but Santa Clarita's like the 3rd largest city in Los Angeles, and it's like a small town to me.
I know, it
mean,
is to
it's,
me
it's
too.
crazy.
Well, I've lived here since 1968.
When it was a small
when
town.
It was. It didn't even exist, really.
Right.
Just had a few stores.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell me about some of the changes. I know that more people are aware, more people are using it. There was a small period of time where it got political and ugly, but
Yes.
I think all of that is behind us now. So, tell us about the advancements and what you might see happening in the future with palliative care.
Well, I see it being utilized more because it's a support system for patients and families. So when it's a holistic approach, we're supporting them emotionally, physically, spiritually. When we are discussing end of life is very, very spiritual for many people. And we're able to utilize our chaplains effectively that way. Chaplains are very skilled at getting people to open up and express their life review and kind of lay out what end of life means to them, because especially with it culturally, religiously, end of life means something different to different people.
Sure.
So if you can look at it that way, we can put together a game plan, advanced care planning, goals of care, so that we can put together a plan for you on what you want your end of life to look like, so that you do have a plan. If you have a terminal illness, that end is going to come. So let's plan out what you want it to look like, so that your family knows what you want, so that when that time comes, your family's not guessing, and the burden isn't placed on them guessing what they want, what you would have wanted.
And we've heard about, is it called Advanced Directive?
Yes.
So
yes.
that's,
Everyone should have one.
that's kind
Everyone
of
in this room
important.
should
Yeah,
have
can you just touch base on that real quick? We only
Yes.
have like a minute.
Okay, so it is a legal document that someone of sound mind drafts. It lists what they would want in the event they're not able to speak for themselves. It appoints someone who can speak for them in the event they can't speak for themselves. It cannot be signed by anyone who would benefit from their death, so often you have to have it notarized. And it doesn't go into effect until the patient can't speak for themselves. And then the designated person.
All right, just one quick question, and then we're going to have to wrap. I'm sorry.
No,
we don't.
no problem.
What about dementia? Because this is huge right now. So how does that affect advanced directives? Does that have to be, taken into consideration?
It does. You probably would have to have a physician determine that the patient is no longer capable of making their own decisions.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you, Melanie, so
Thank you.
much
It
for
was a
giving
pleasure
us
to be
your
here.
time.
Yes.
In all the work you do, amazing over at Henry Mayo. Thank you again. You've been listening to the Senior Hour, KHTS FM 98.1, AM 1220, hometownstation.com.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Polucki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And our guest now is Adam Laraway from Focus Physical Therapy, of which I know quite a bit.
Hello there, how are you?
So what is Focus Physical Therapy?
Focus Physical Therapy. So that's my clinic that almost 5 years this month will have been open, and started it with the intent of really focusing on patient care. I have been a PT for 24 years, and I was part of a great clinic for a long period of time, and then the clinic kind of started to change a little bit. Kind of the corporation took over and wanted us really to focus more on getting them in, getting them out. And that was stressful because, I became a physical therapist to help people.
And you don't just get them in and get them out.
Right, we
No,
don't
it
do that,
doesn't
exactly.
work.
I get told that by a lot of patients that come to us that, when they come in, just the other day I had a father who brought his daughter in for treatment, and he was sitting there, and he hadn't been coming. The mother had been bringing her, and he kind of, because he was kind of observing and kind of checking out what we're doing and all that type of stuff, and he says, I've been to therapy before. This place is really different, and I had a knee injury and surgery, and it didn't really get much any better, and do you think, what you guys do here might help me? And I was like, I'm absolutely willing to try. That's the whole purpose of what we do. And so sure enough, I think he's coming in next week. But he was telling us, like, it's so much different because you see the therapist every time, which is unfortunately not the norm for physical therapy anymore.
Yeah.
It is get them in, get them out. They're seeing 3, 4, 5 patients an hour, and that's not what we're trying to do at Focus. We're trying to really focus on the patient and help get to the bottom of the problem.
Well, when I've been in there, and I've been coming once a week,
Yeah.
and it's always full.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, definitely.
Most of those beds are filled.
Yeah. We definitely don't have trouble with getting patients in, and I think it's because people realize that we are trying to help them. We are focusing on what their problem is and trying to get to the bottom of it so that they can go on and live their life the way they want to live it. And so it's kind of funny, we were talking before the show, but I'm trying to find more therapists, and so I interviewed two last week. So I'm really hopeful that I can get one or both of them. They definitely were seeing how we're different and seeing the mission of what Focus is, to focus on that patient care. And so I'm really hoping to get them in the door, because that would really help me out with trying
Yes.
to manage the clinic as well as being
Well,
a
it's-
therapist in the clinic.
It's a busy place.
It is a
My
busy place, for
goodness,
sure.
it's busy. And there are so many people in there with so many different problems
Yeah.
they're going through and being treated for.
Yeah, and
It's amazing.
that's one of the fun things I think about with treating with the Neubie, which is kind of our differentiator of what we do, and is that we can map the body and we can get to the heart of the problem, which is really, really cool. I actually had a new patient on Monday who I had seen I guess about a year and a half ago, and he unfortunately he tried to get in with me, and I had a month-long waiting list. He didn't want to wait, and so he tried another clinic in town here, and he wasn't getting any results. And because he had the experience with the Neubie a year and a half ago, he came in. And so when he came in on Monday, he's like, he says, I feel like I cheated on you a little bit, that I went to this other clinic. He said, but I also realized that it wasn't helping a lot, and I know that the Neubie made the difference, how you guys use it and how you map and you get to the heart of the problem. And I actually saw him for his follow-up this morning, and we were using the glove and, figuring out the issue, and he left, feeling way, way better, with having that one-on-one care and getting to the heart of that problem, which is what we really focus on.
Well, it's interesting because I'm coming in there for my neuropathy, and it strikes me more at night
Yeah,
when I'm not moving around. If I'm moving around, I'm fine.
yeah,
But it's at night.
yeah, yeah. When you get off your feet and everything's turned,
Everything's
turning off
turned
and
off.
trying to recover, from your daily activities, for sure. Really cool. They're getting ready to publish a study that the Neubie did, where they looked at the treatment. It was 12 sessions, and treating peripheral neuropathy specifically with the foot bath, which is what we do, part of your treatment. I have the data from the study, but they haven't published it yet. But it actually showed and increased in what's called nerve conduction velocity, which is a test that we do. It's kind of the gold standard for how quickly your nerves fire and how they conduct. And it showed improvement in that, which is huge. I mean, that tells us that the Neubie was stimulating that nervous system, those nerves, and getting them to heal. And then it also showed what's called axonal regeneration. So they were able to prove that actually the nerves were actually regrowing. And that will then hopefully get rid of those symptoms. And they showed pretty significant improvements in almost every single patient. So I'm really excited for this study to actually get published so we can actually read the study. I have like I said, they were able to give me the numbers, but I want to see the actual write-up of everything.
Well, it's interesting because I can't remember her name now. She works on me, but
Rachel?
Rachel.
Yep.
Yes, and she was manipulating my feet
With the glove?
with the glove.
Yep.
And it's unbelievable what she was doing.
Right?
Absolutely unbelievable what she was doing.
Yeah.
And I think with that hand,
Yeah.
she's doing all that.
Yep. That's what's really cool. So the glove, is an extension of the Neubie. It plugs into the Neubie and it makes our hand basically
And of course,
like
I've got things stuck all over me.
with the electrodes, right? But it's kind of really cool because it's a way for us to use our manual therapy techniques that we use, but then kind of turbocharge them, if you will, because the glove gives us the electricity, the direct current that your nervous system's using. So, we can use that tool to kind of facilitate what we would do in just normal physical therapy without the Neubie. You can still use those manual techniques.
It's interesting because I can tell her, okay, turn it up a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Because my body gets accustomed to that,
Exactly.
and then it just feels like it's not doing anything. So I call, come on over, turn it up a little bit,
Yep.
so that I actually feel.
Exactly.
I need to feel what's going on in my body.
Exactly.
And with those pads all over me,
Right?
I can feel it.
Yeah. And that's what's cool is, and we talk to patients about this when we're in the clinic, but, the Neubie is not changing the intensity of the electricity. It's staying the same. What's happening is because it taps into your nervous system and it's using the same type of current, your brain is actually starting to re-educate and shut off those protective mechanisms.
Oh.
So, that's why, when we use the glove or we map or we do any of those things, when we find those, we call them hot spots, that's where your brain is sending a signal that's causing either a restriction or maybe an inhibition of a muscle, meaning it's not turning on, or it's turned on too much and it's overworking, it's compensating. So we find those spots, and then, we're re-educating the brain that these movement patterns are safe. And so the Neubie's not changing in its intensity, but it goes down because your nervous system kind of says, oh, I can move now, I can do this, this isn't a threat. And that's how we get the body to re-educate and restore the function so that you get back to what you want to do. And so for you, several times during the session, that intensity dropped. It wasn't the Neubie dropping, it was your nervous system saying, oh, okay, I can adapt to this.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I unfortunately didn't get to go this week.
No?
There was a screw up in the appointment time.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I'll see you next Wednesday.
All right, well, yeah. Let me know because we should have a cancellation list, so if you can't get in, then we'll definitely give you a call if we get a cancellation.
Well, they said they would call me.
Okay, yeah.
if-
The girls are really
if
good
there
about
is-
that.
Yeah,
So, yep.
yeah. That there was a mix-up.
Oh,
I was supposed to call them back and verify
Uh-huh.
the new time change,
Gotcha, okay.
and obviously I forgot to call back. But I didn't note it
Yeah.
on in my book.
Yeah.
It was still there.
It's still
you
there?
know.
Uh-oh, no, that's not good. That's not good.
So,
Yeah, usually the girls at our front desk are really good about following up and making
Yes.
sure. And if we do have a cancellation, they call immediately, especially with us right now having a waiting list. So again, hopefully we're going to hire one or two of these therapists that will definitely help to kind of give us a little bit more flexibility
Oh
with
yeah,
schedules.
it will.
Yeah,
Just
for
having
sure.
just well, she's the only one there, isn't she? No, there's two.
So there's three
there's
three
three of
professionals,
them.
yeah. So
Three.
there's Tiana and Rachel. Tiana is another physical therapist just like me, and then Rachel is a physical therapy assistant. So both of them are a licensed degree. They had to sit for the boards and are licensed, and they have to renew. So yeah, between the three of us right now we're treating, but we really need like 4 to 5. So
Yeah, because you need to have all of those beds
right,
completely
exactly,
full.
yeah. That's we got to help as many people as possible.
Absolutely.
That's my goal.
And it's good therapy.
Yeah, it's
Really is. It's good therapy. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I think I have 4 or 5 more sessions left.
Yeah. It's a
And,
lot of fun. I got in this field obviously, and I think most physical therapists and chiropractors, they get in the field because they want to help people. I mean that's our goal, and having this piece of equipment that allows me to tap into your nervous system, kind of gives me a cut above the rest. Because I don't want to say guessing, but I'm not like when we before the Neubie, I had objective tests that we do, and we do your subjective. We listen to what you tell us, and we can kind of hone in on, what we think the problem is. But, I mean, ultimately we're only as good as the testing that we're doing and
That's right.
Assessment and reassessment and, doing the treatments. But with the Neubie, it allows me to tap into your nervous system that I couldn't do with some of these objective tests, and so I can find I had a lady that was going to go to neck surgery, and I found a spot in her wrist. I would never think to look
In her
in her
wrist?
wrist as the culprit. But when we put the pad on the wrist, and then it was on her upper back, that got rid of the issue in just a few sessions.
Amazing.
So that one, yeah, I was scratching my head like, what's going on with the wrist that's causing the neck to cause problems?
Isn't that interesting?
Exactly.
Wow.
It's all connected.
It's amazing. Our bodies are amazing, aren't
Absolutely.
they? I mean,
Yeah, and
even
they don't-
you with your practice in chiropractic,
Yeah.
and you're not the put on the bed and twist chiropractor, which I dearly love. I used to go to a chiropractor that did nothing but twist me and turn me around, and I would be cracking all over the place. But Tom is not that kind of chiropractor, thank goodness.
Nope.
Yeah. So the interesting thing that both of you have mentioned is, the bodies don't read the books.
Right.
We're taught in school, and it's taught very intensely to us that this is the way it is. This is how this works, and with any experience at all, you start realizing hey, wait a second, that's not necessarily
Yeah.
why, but it's supposed to. The textbook says this.
Right. Yeah.
And, some people say it with a lot of authority about how things are supposed to be, and you believe it until you pay attention and find out that, hey, that it's a good guideline, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily the fact for that patient. And that's the important thing about a functional approach, whether you're going to use manual therapy, physical therapy, any kind of modality, or chiropractic or anything like that. There's never a one-size-fits-all.
Sure.
You have to be willing to accept that there are limitations in our diagnostic capabilities. There are limitations in every modality. You have to be able to shift gears. And the most important thing, I just learned this. You're going to love this. So I believe his name was Osler. Does that name mean anything to you? He was one of the first professors at Johns Hopkins. World famous, amazing, pinnacle type doctor. And he said, and it's been rephrased, but he said, the good doctor, the good physician treats the disease effectively. The great doctor treats the patient.
Absolutely.
And that's what that's what we got in this for.
For sure.
Obviously there are your options out there, and as you said earlier, people can find out that those options aren't necessarily motivated the same way that
Right.
we are.
Yeah, for sure.
But I believe a functional approach, regardless of what's in your little black bag, is really the only way
Absolutely.
that it's going to work for the patient.
Absolutely. Well, and to piggyback on what you said about, textbook, very rarely do we see a textbook patient, and I always talk to patients. I'll say, yeah, you have these symptoms, but the whole part of trying to help you is we've got to put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
And the puzzle is your history. You know, did you have a car accident a long time ago? Did you have, and finding those pieces, are you going through, some really stressful things? Maybe you're not sleeping as well. There's so many different components. And unfortunately in our medical system right now, that we're expected to see so many patients, it is get them in, get them out. You have 5 minutes with your physician. And there's no way they can sit there and talk to you and determine, okay, we're not getting, we're not eating well because we're stressed. We're not sleeping well because we're stressed. We're not, we're working long hours at work and all these different things. There's so many different factors that contribute to your issue, in addition to what mechanically is going wrong as well. And that, there's so many different factors with that. So.
Yeah, symptoms and emergency care, absolutely necessary. However, they're just the tip of the iceberg.
For sure.
Just the tip of the iceberg. And if you've ever seen a real iceberg, you know that the part that you see is like maybe 10, 15% of it. 80% of it's under the water.
Below. Right.
And that's what does the damage.
Right.
And in my patient base, whatever symptom they come in, because they come in with a lot of different stuff, but whatever symptom they come in with, I'm more interested. Of course, I feel for their pain, and I want to get them the relief as quick as possible. But I'm more interested in what's beneath the surface, because that's where you can actually make some change.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody can, slap on a couple of electrodes, do a little rubby-dubby, slap them on the back, whatever, and give them some temporary relief. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but to actually go into it and look at their diet, the way they personally manage stress, the way they have to spend the majority of their time every day, the way, whether they're sleeping, whether they're hydrating, all of these things factor into it. And if you're not even asking those questions, the likelihood of you doing anything more than being a really expensive aspirin are minimal.
Right. That's true. For sure.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Thomas Polucki, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And our guest now has been Adam Laraway from Focus Physical Therapy, of which I go to, and it's an incredible place. It really is.
Well, thank you.
And that Neubie, the only thing I don't like is the cold patches. Oh, you talk about cold. I mean, they're ice cold, and you put on the back, and
Yeah.
that's the only thing I don't like.
It's funny you say that. We get a lot of comments on that, and they're like, "Do you keep those in the refrigerator?" We really don't. They're just, everybody has their own pads. We don't share pads. So, but we keep them in, in baskets. They're just on a countertop. But yeah, it's funny and I work out with it myself on the weekends and sometimes during the week. And, if I start with core work, putting those cold pads on your stomach and your back, it's like, whoa. So I
mean,
get
it's
it.
a shock.
Right. Yeah. If we think about it, we will stick them on the hot pack machine sometimes just to kind of warm them up a little bit, and that makes a difference. But yeah, if you're putting it on somebody's lower back or something, you get their attention, you give them a little warning.
One on either side of my neck. And,
Right.
good heavens, I feel like my head's going to come off.
Yeah, right. Somebody needs to come up with an electrode warmer.
That's the only thing I have against
That's true.
Focus
Yeah, that's true.
Therapy.
Yeah. Or
It's
remind
those
me,
ice
I'll
cold.
stick them on the hot pack machine for 30 seconds. It'll warm them up. That is funny. Yeah, we do get that complaint for sure.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, Adam, closing thoughts for your week on the Senior Hour of July.
Well, I would say just, if you're having a problem that you haven't been able to get resolution on, that seems to kind of be our specialty. We get a lot of people that have unfortunately kind of struck out in the medical system and kind of given up on, like, well, this is just the new status quo. And, come and see us and try the Neubie. See if we can tap into your nervous system and figure out the problem. That's what we're trying to do. We're focused on the problem.
Contact information?
We are located at 25050 Peachland Avenue, Suite 205. Our phone number is 661-255-4205, and our website is www.focusptscv.com.
Thank you, Adam Laraway, Focus Physical Therapy. You've been listening to the Senior Hour, KHTS, FM 98.1, AM 1220, hometownstation.com. We're brought to you by Comfort Keepers and Providence Holy Cross. Now go out, try to stay cool, and take care.